What is up, guys? Charlie Pangus here. So today I have another Photoshop tutorial for you. We're going to be taking a real life image of a butterfly and turning it into a print ready design. Really awesome skill to know. So without further ado, let's go and hop into Photoshop and get started. Today we are going to apply a print looking effect to this butterfly, which is a real butterfly image. We're going to be turning it into this right here. It's got a gradient and it just looks really awesome. I love applying this effect to all my images. I actually just recently experimented with this type of design and I've been really liking it, so I wanted to show you guys how I recreate it. So anyway, we are going to get started. So I have this picture of a butterfly. Now you can use any butterfly you want to accomplish this. The main thing that you want to worry about is making it black and white and also making sure it has good contrast, because that's how this effect works better. First off, I'm going to hide this design folder. Now this document is 15 inches by 15 inches at 300 DPI or resolution, so make sure you guys have a canvas similar to that. So what we're going to do first is we're going to double click on this picture here, because when you drag a picture into Photoshop, it's automatically going to be locked for some freaking reason. I don't know why it does that, but we're going to just double click on it and click OK and get rid of that. You can name it if you want, which I might do just for organization's sakes. So butterfly. So we got a I spelled it wrong. Of course I spelled it wrong. So we're going to type out butterfly, rename that real quick. So we got the butterfly. Now what we're going to do is we're going to drag it into our canvas right here, and I'm just going to resize it. And don't worry about it being a little pixelated. Once you resize it, it's totally fine. It's going to look great. Don't worry. So go ahead and hit apply. It is important to note that you want to at least have a decent sized image to start with, because if you don't have that, then you're in trouble, because it is going to look really blurry when you go to blow it up. So make sure it's at least a really decent image, 1000 by 1000 or something like that. But anyway, so I'm going to duplicate this once, Control J, just because I want to keep a copy in case I need it later on. So this is my backup copy, and I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder for this tutorial here. So I'm going to name that tutorial. Bam. Put that butterfly in there. The copy can stay out, I don't mind that. All right, so now we have a duplicate copy in case we mess up, and we have our main copy. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and make it a smart object. And the reason why is because we're gonna be doing stuff to it, and we want it to be a smart object so we can change things later on. If it was a rasterized image and we apply effects to this layer, it's gonna be combined with the image, and you're gonna have to go back a bunch of times to undo what you messed up on. So smart objects allow you to work smart. That's why they're called smart objects. So now that we made that a smart object, we're going to go to Image, Adjustments, and we want to go ahead and go to Black and White. Now, you could just desaturate this, but the good thing about doing black and white is you can mess with the contrast of different areas of the actual butterfly, so, or the image, whatever image you're using. So I'm going to go ahead and mess with the reds, and you can kind of play with these, and you'll see what it does. I mean, it's hard to explain, so you're just going to have to mess with it, but basically you want it to be really contrasty. So some of the areas I'm going to make them really contrasty on purpose, because we want those details to pop up. So basically the darker the better. You don't want them to be too dark though, because it can ruin it. You have to find a good balance. So just kind of try to copy me. So those wings can kind of go a little lighter just because they are the wing part. And we can just mess with everything a little bit. So you don't have to be too picky with it. Just make sure you're kind of using your best judgment. So once you're happy with it, go ahead and click OK. Now we're kind of already ready to do the main effect, which is going to add this print look to it. So now what I need to do is just convert this to a smart object one more time. So the black and white image adjustment we just added, we just converted that to a smart object, so it basically combined it all together, which is fine because we have a duplicate copy in case we fuck up. So now we have that butterfly, and what I want to do now is just go ahead and go to the filter gallery. So go to filter and then go to filter gallery, and since this is a smart object, it's going to add it to the image without flattening the image with the effect that we added. So we're going to be able to mess with it a lot. Now, one thing that I messed up on already is I need to go ahead and cancel this. I need to make sure the foreground color is black, okay? Since this is on white, this needs to be black. It needs to be opposite. So the foreground's now black. Now we can go back to that filter gallery, and it should look pretty badass from there. And it does. So that's basically all I had to do. So I have two main things added. I have grain added, which is one of the main parts. So go ahead, if you don't see the grain, what you can do is go to texture and just add grain. And then go ahead and click this new effect layer and then add torn edges, which I've already done, so I don't need to do that. So grain and torn edges. So I'm gonna go over each one and you guys can kind of copy my settings. These are very confusing to explain, but basically messing with these levels messes with the clarity of this image with the contrast. So if we mess with image balance, you'll see what I'm saying. So if you want to go darker, you can move the image balance up on torn edges and it will make it darker. If you want to show more detail on the white side, you can just lower it, see, and it will show more detail on the wings. I don't mind it being like this, a little darker. The smoothness I keep all the way up because it just makes it look so much better. So if you lower it, you'll see what I mean. See? It doesn't look as good. So I always leave the smoothness all the way up. The contrast you can mess with a little bit as well, kind of brings out some detail. So the more you go up with it, the more white's going to show. So you kind of just have to mess with that and figure out what you like more. So 21 contrast is what I went with. Again, I would mess with that level though and see what works better for your image because all images are going to react differently to this effect. Now what I'm going to do is go to grain. Grain's pretty self-explanatory. I went 74 with intensity and 29 with contrast. Again, you can mess with these levels and get more detail of the image. A lot of it's just messing around and playing with these levels. And then the intensity we can go ahead and mess with a little bit. I'm really happy with the way it already looked, so I'm just going to go ahead and keep it like that. I do like this right side more, so what I might do is just cut this image in half and then duplicate it, and that way it's symmetrical. So I'll show you how I do that. But so far, this looks really good, and I'm happy with it. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now, the next thing I want to do is get rid of the white, because if you hide this background layer, you're going to notice there's a white background on it, right? And we don't want that. If we're trying to select this background out, it's going to be a pain in the ass. So I'm going to show you the easiest way to get rid of the white. So we're going to go ahead and go to the effects palette here, down here, and go to blending options. Now what you want to do is you're going to go ahead and take the top layer, which is this layer, make sure blend if is gray, and go to the right side, which is on the white side, and we're going to see this little triangle thing, okay? Once you see that, what we're going to do is hold an Alt, and we're going to click the left side of it, and we're just going to drag that down. And what that did is it got rid of the white background automatically for us. And the reason why I separate them by holding an Alt is because it gives it a smoother blend, okay? It gets rid of the white smoother. Hard to explain as well, but basically it just gives it a smoother transition, which looks a lot better in the long run. So we don't want to just like move everything over like that, you know? We don't want to just do that because look how much detail gets lost. That's why we go the smoother route and just separate these 2 points and make it a smooth transition into that transparent background. Just to make sure that I have a really nice background cut out and it's a really transparent image, I'm gonna go ahead and invert this background real quick. And as you can see, it's not fully white, so I'm gonna go back to my effects blend options and mess with that a little bit more just to make sure it is white. And that is completely white. Now we can go ahead and invert our background again just to make it white again, and that is basically it for that. So if you got this far, you were doing great. So we got rid of the white background, we added that print effect, we already did everything we need to do. So I like to make things symmetrical, which means I like both sides to match each other perfectly. And that may sound weird to some people, but it's preference. You don't have to do this, and this image really doesn't need it, but I'm just gonna show you how you can go about doing that. So we're gonna go ahead and duplicate Totoro once, creating a copy, and then we're gonna convert that new layer into a rasterized layer by merging the group. And the reason why is because we're going to go ahead and cut this in half because we want to make this symmetrical like I was saying before. So just cut it exactly in the center, and you can go and delete one side, and then you can duplicate this side and basically flip it. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it symmetrical, making it look really awesome. So you can see what I mean right now. See, just like that. So that's completely symmetrical. It actually has a cooler design now, in my opinion. It just looks nicer. And again, that's preference. You don't have to do that. So the only thing I would critique is that this butt side is a little small, but it's not a big deal at all because butterflies fluctuate different sizes. So that is completely okay. So we're going to merge those layers together, and we're just going to type out butterfly final. Butterfly final, if I can learn how to spell. So butterfly final, and we're going to convert that to a smart object. Now, what we're going to do is add a gradient to this image to give it that nice effect that we saw earlier. So to do that, all we need to do is go to this half circle here and just hit gradient, and then you can automatically click OK and basically hold an Alt, and you can force that inside of the butterfly, okay? And the reason why I do that is because I don't want it to show on the background. I just want it to show on the butterfly. Wherever the butterfly is, I want it to show. And if I didn't do that, it would affect everything, and I don't want that. So once you force that inside the butterfly area, what we can do is just double click on this thumbnail, and it's gonna pop up this again, okay? Now we can choose a new gradient. So we just double click on the gradient, which is a transparent to black gradient, and we can mess with that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and select random colors. I'm gonna go red, or actually I'm gonna go purple first. So I'm gonna go like a weird off purple. Not getting too picky with this, just choose a color that you like. And it's good to choose colors that actually work together, by the way. and then I'm going to choose a faded red. So I have a faded purple and a faded red, and look what I got. I got this nice looking image right here. Now if we click OK out of this gradient editor, we can actually move this around just by taking our mouse and left clicking, and we can move it around to our liking. So I'm going to make it like half and half. That looks really cool. So I can click OK, and now we have our awesome butterfly with a print effect. And now all I have to do is add the text, which is super easy. So first off, I'm going to group this one more time. I'm going to type tutorial final design, just so I know where the final is. And then we're going to go ahead and draw out a rectangle. Nothing to it. The first thing we should probably do actually is type out butterfly effect. That way we know how big we need to make the rectangle. So just type out butterfly effect, or whatever you want, whatever you feel like typing out. It's completely up to you. The butterfly effect is a little spaced out for me. So what I'm going to do is just kind of take the kerning or whatever you call it and bring it in. I have no idea what they call it. I don't know the fancy terms. So just like that. And then we're going to draw out a rectangle because we want to make sure it fits. That's why we did the text first. So now we know kind of how big to make the rectangle. Just like that's fine. Leaving enough space on each side is always a good practice. And then we're going to select both layers by holding in shift and then just center them. That way we know it's going to look good. And then we can just basically lower the fill of the rectangle and add an inside stroke. And we don't want it to be too thick, you know, because if it is too thick, it's going to look awkward. So we could do like 18. Even that's too thick, so we could do like 12. 12 seems to be good. So I hit OK and make sure this is centered one more time just for shits and gigs, just to make sure it is. And that's about it, guys. And then what I did is I changed the color of it so I can go ahead and group these together. Selecting both layers, I grouped them. And then we can just type out text. And we can add a solid color fill, okay? And it's gonna look like it got rid of everything, but no worries. What we can do is we can hold an Alt again, force that inside the text group, which is gonna force all this text to be the color that we choose. And we're just gonna kind of color pick where we want the color to be. So I'm taking the butterfly right here and I'm going towards the purple and just color picking that. And that's basically all I did, guys. And since everything is in a group, now I can recenter it to my canvas to make it perfectly centered. Bam! Just like that. It was so easy, right? We just created a really cool print effect on this butterfly or whatever image that you guys decided to use. And it was like, what, 10 minutes to learn this? If that. All we did was use some smart objects and some filter gallery stuff, and that's about it. And some blend options maybe, but it's easy, guys, and I love doing these type of tutorials. So if you guys want to see more of them, let me know by commenting in the section below. Let's get a lot of likes on this video. Let's get like over 100 likes real quick on this video. It helps me get more views. And as always, thank you guys for your support. And if you haven't already, please subscribe because I would love to meet new people. That's all I got for this one, guys, but I will see you in the next one. Bye.
What if this is telling you nothing? So I'm only doing what I was told.